And let's welcome our next speaker, Jussara Korngold. She will present the workshop entitled Passes, Spiritual and Magnetic Healing. Jussara Korngold holds a Bachelor of Science and a Master's of Business Administration. She is the founder and president of the Spiritist Alliance for Books, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting and disseminating Spiritism in English as codified by Allan Kardec. Jussara is also one of the founders and directors of the Spiritist Group of New York, located in Manhattan. In addition, she is a Spiritist writer and has been translating Spiritist materials in books since 1993. She is currently Vice President of the United States Spiritist Council, and she is one of the executive directors of the International Spiritist Council. Also, Jussara is one of the directors of the Tri-State Spiritist Federation. She has been working as a volunteer in the Office of Brazil Child Health in New York since its opening in 2000 as its main executive. Jussara.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all ready for our next workshop, and that you can be learning and understanding a little more about the art of healing. The idea here is to give you as much as possible, an understanding on how we work on what is also known the laying on of hands. That is used in many other philosophies, as well as the therapeutic touch, Reiki. They all follow more or less the same principle. And we have our version in terms of Spiritism as well, that we call passes. Even if you are not thinking about becoming what we call a pass giver, on the end of the receiver, you're also going to benefit understanding what goes on when you are receiving passes. And what should be your positioning, your mental and physical positioning in order to benefit even more from that. We have, of course, just an hour and a half to cover a lot of the material. We are going to be actually using one of the books that we wrote to give an idea to help people understand more this kind of work. And so I will rush a little bit at the beginning with the more theoretical things, trying to get to the more practical things, and also leave time for questions for the Q&A. Okay, so bear with me. I'm going to start putting my gear on, and let's go in this journey to understanding magnetic passes. Well, the definition pass, that was actually a very difficult thing. When we were writing this book, there were so many people trying to say, is it the right word, passes or not? Should it be healing? The thing is, the purpose of the passes is to achieve healing. Physical, spiritual, emotional. The means that we use to do that, the laying on of hands, the passes, is what we call passes. So that's why we thought the word would be appropriated. And after that, we find this word used in many of the American books. Even in the Metropolitan Museum of New York, there was, like about 8 years ago, the photograph of the occult. They were showing photographs. One of them were about two hands of deceased people. One that were submitted to what they called magnetic passes, and the other one not. Of course, you imagine the result. The one that had magnetic passes was much less deteriorated than the other one. But the thing is, they were already using this word even without us knowing that was something that has been utilized. So the moving on of the hands to serve as a medium of exchange. And in terms of the healing, like we said, that we are going to achieve through passes, we have in the English dictionary, to heal is to restore to health. What is this idea of restore to health? We remember that there is one teaching, one phrase actually from Jesus that always stays in my mind when we are talking about healing, which is go and sin no more. Explaining how the whole process of the passes, of benefiting from the energies that we are going to be receiving, is also related to our behavior. According to how I'm going to be receptive to those energies, I'm going to benefit more or less. And if by any chance the things that are making me ill, I continue following the same pattern, of course I will again incur in the same illness that I had before. So it's important for us to have that in mind. And we see it, normally we see the drawings, of course, of Jesus when he was healing and the people and imposing his hands. So it's something that we will be seeing throughout history, even in carvings that we have from the ancient times. There are some carvings of pharaohs placing their hands and then rays of energy reaching the people that is the recipient of that. So we see that it's something very common in terms of history, going from the Egyptian, Hindus, Chinese, Celts, Druids, Native American. So we have received this, even if we do not know about it. For instance, we can see for those who are parents, when you have a child that is ill, the one natural thing that we do is to place our hands on the part where they are ill. Sometimes we blow on that part and say it's going to go away. This is magnetic healing. We do not know. It's almost instinctive. And we go and we do that, those kind of actions, not necessarily knowing about that. You know, when the baby has hiccups, and then, I don't know if you have the superstition here, but in Brazil, they say that if you put like a thread in here in the third eye, and you do like this with your saliva and you put that. Well, it's not the red thread that is going to be healing the baby from the hiccups, but your saliva, the magnetic energy that it contains, and when you place your hand here, how it's going to impact. So naturally, we have been doing that. We have some ideas about working with forces that somehow we still cannot explain completely. It's still something that we are trying to understand it more. And of course, in this sense, we will need, and it's going to happen, the contribution of medical science. They are already going and working with some experiments, but things are going to progress from that. So nowadays, we still work more on the one side. We just think about ourselves as physical body. And that's why it is so difficult for us sometimes to reach healing or to reach a complete healing. Because we have to remember that we are at least three bodies. We are spirit, we are a spiritual body that in Spiritism we call perispirit. And we are the physical body. And most of the time, our illnesses come from the spirit, go and sin no more, and reflects on our spiritual body that in its turn is going to externalize in the physical body. So healing has to be something as well that comes from inside out. Of course, when we are talking about an established illnesses, we are never going to dispense the assistance of the medical doctors, the medicines we have to take. The illness is already in our physical body and requires physical actions to be treated. But only treating this and not treating the cause is not going to have a very good result many times. So who can heal? Many times people think, oh, I don't know if I can be one of the past givers in a Spiritist center. And what we have here is that everyone can. Of course, there are going to be mediums that are more, let's say, prepared, because they came with this task to work with what we call magnetic healing. But us, even if we are not mediums, having the proper training, having the intention, and we will be listing some of the things that can help us in this process of passes, of helping others, we all can do it. If we are willing, those who were here during the morning, remember when Mauricio was explaining about sometimes we want to do something, but are we ready to commit to that? If we are, anyone can be actually a past giver, but we have to be ready to commit to that, and we have to take the necessary measures in order to be good past givers. Everything works in the field of energy, in what we call universal fluid or universal cosmic fluid. This is what we exchange. They say that we are made out of stardust. It's beautiful, right? We are stars. And we are made out of stardust. And all of that, and combining all the elements that exist, the energy, the breath of love from the Creator, this is the field that we are talking about when we are dealing with passes, magnetic or spiritual healing, or like we said before, laying on of hands is the same thing. It's just, sometimes the movements change a little bit, the idea as we approach it change a little bit, but this is what we are talking about here in the field of energy. So we are changing, receiving, exchanging energy, and helping in the to restore our physical body. So this fluid can be furnished to us in the way that we are going to be able to absorb energy that are going to help us in terms of physical health. And when we talk about physical health, we are also talking somehow about spiritual health, because our spiritual body is also of a physical nature. More material, of course, but it's also of a physical nature. And so it's also going to be receiving and impregnated by all this energy. So the concept of Spiritist passes is the action or effort to transmit to another individual magnetic and spiritual energy from incarnates or discarnates, are always a fluidic magnetic procedure that have as its main objective to assist in the restoration of the patient's organic balance. We are going to make a distinction very soon about what is magnetic, what is spiritual, what is mixed. Everything we will be explaining to you. So the concept, in the same manner that a blood transfusion represents a renewal of the physical forces, the pass is a transfusion of psychic energies. It is the transmission of a psychic and or a spiritual force, not requiring any physical contact in its application. So sometimes when people say, explain to me very quickly what is passes, because it can be very complicated. We're going to be here 1.5 hours just talking about that, and I'm telling you that we are just going to be starting talking about all of that. So sometimes they say, you know, when you go out and you work and you return home and you go straight to the shower to remove the negative energy, not negative energies, the dirty from your body to feel good. Well, the passes is like taking a shower, but in this case it's a spiritual shower. When we are using the process of, you know, the laying on of hands through the passes, in fact, this energy, those fluids that we were showing to you, are going to provoke the removal of a negative energy that may be somehow attached in some parts of your body, especially the ones that are more prone to the exchange of energy that we call chakras. Those are open channels for sending and receiving energy. That's why normally the past giver is going to be working more in the main 7 chakras, because there is where we are going to retain more of this kind of energy. So it's like taking a spiritual shower, and you go, and after that, after the passes, you feel lighter somehow, you feel restored somehow. Why is it not necessary the physical contact? It's not necessarily because we don't want you to touch people. People can feel uncomfortable if we touch them. That too. But the thing is, we are talking about cleansing and restoring and helping on the spiritual aspect, on the spiritual body. So how can I touch with my hand the spiritual body, but my spiritual self, my spiritual hand somehow touches this spiritual body of the person that is receiving the assistance? That's why it is not necessary to touch. Sometimes people will touch because they feel more comfortable, it seems more effective. We live in the world of concrete things. I have to try to see, you know, when we go to stores and we have to touch everything. Unless we touch it, seems that we haven't seen anything. But in this case, in the case of the passes, this is not absolutely not necessary. So we are transmitting what we call also the vital fluid. When we incarnate, are dealing with this universal cosmic fluid, we call it a different name, which is vital fluid. So the vitality that comes associated with the material contents of the incarnate is what we call the vital fluid, and it's going to be helping us to balance energies that we can see, like in this case of this drawing here. Sometimes people will actually come for passes, if we could see, with this kind of configuration, and after a few sessions they will be feeling much better. Of course, to maintain this is something that we have to work about it. There is no miracles, and there are no miracles. And of course, in this case, as much as we can help, like you come for, let's say, the spiritual shower, you go out in the dirt again, what is going to happen? Whose fault is that? The past giver that was not strong enough, that couldn't, you know, prevent you to do that? Or you yourself acting on your free will? So we have to think about that. And we receive the energy through the chakras. So there are many chakras in our physical body. I don't even remember the number now. If someone in the audience remembers, please let me know when we are during the Q&A. But we have many. Most of the time, all the Eastern philosophies and us as well in its Spiritism, we mention the 7 main chakras. We have chakras in our hands. That's why they can be so effective when we are doing the healing, for instance. But they are not considered to be the main chakras. We have chakras here on our back, on the back of the skull. Chakras means the congregation, where the nerves, the ganglions, converge to a single point in the physical body. And in the spiritual body, in the etheric body, in the spirit, is going to be opening for this exchange of energy. So the main chakras that we have, are those that we are going to be listening soon. So they congregate in the ramifications of the plexus and vibrate in attunement with any other under the influx of the directive power of the mind. We have what is called also the etheric body. We also have the vital centers located in this etheric double. That is a fluidic body that is very close to our physical body. Actually, it disintegrates with our physical body at the time of death. It's what we call the will of the wisp. It's the disintegration of the etheric body. Sometimes, because it's energy, it's pure energy, sometimes people may be this will of the wisp, right? And it's actually the disintegration of the etheric body. And it's also the one responsible when we call about people that can see the auras, the aura, the health. It's actually what they are seeing is the emancipation of the etheric body that actually represents very much so what the physical body especially in terms of health. So it's an energetic duplicate of the individual interpreting its physical body at the same time that it seems to emerge from that. This is actually absolutely a great picture to show us, to give us an idea about the etheric body, because at the same time that it seems that it completely emerges from the physical body, it is still not the physical body. And this is sometimes what we have difficulty in placing all the bodies that we have. The etheric double continuously is emitting an energetic emanation that presents itself in the form of rays that emanates like we see here in the picture. So the main chakras that we have is the crown or coronal, the brow, the throat, the cardiac, the solar plexus, the splenic, basic or root. So those are the areas that we are going to be working more when we are talking about passes, be of mixed nature, spiritual nature, or magnetic nature. So let us understand a little about this magnetic nature. It is through this means that the water is magnetized. It is also through this means that the well-known physical cures occur among the Spiritists. So the magnetism comes mostly from human beings. When we incarnate, all the energy that we receive through our chakras and that become what we call vital fluid, when we release this energy, it's what we call magnetism. There are people that will be more or less endowed with this kind of energy. That's why we may have wonderful healers. And in the Spiritist magazine, when Kardec used it to write about it, there was a a great number of people without knowledge how they could actually perform this kind of healing. But it mostly comes out of the own person. We have somehow, a battery that is stronger than the next human being that is next to us. And so this can provoke more impact on the physical sphere of the human beings that are going to be the recipient of this kind of magnetism. In terms of the water as well, they are going to be receiving this vital energy that can also be provided somehow by the spirits, the discarnates as we say, that are going to be changing the molecules and giving us, like today is easier for us to talk about magnetized water because we have all those vitamin waters, etc. It's like the same thing. They take the plain water, they go there and do some magic. Okay, we're just going to be using that because we don't know exactly how they do it, but send the energy, and then it's like taking boosted water, like magnetic water or with vitamin water. So the stronger the will, but the thing is, sometimes we may have a strong power, but if we do not know how to direct this power, it's going to get wasted. It's like when we have the power of the water, but if we do not use that in a power plant, we are not going to be having electricity. In this case, it's the same thing. The will and the understanding of what to do with this energy that some of us may have in a greater amount than others will actually play a very important role in the sense of helping in healing someone. That's why when we talk about magnetic healing, it requires a little more study on the anatomy, the understanding a little more about the behavior of a certain particular organ, so that we can focus on that and actually be more capable with our will to make a better impact in this sense. Magnetism, we know actually the first name that magnetism received was mesmerism. That comes from Franz Anton Mesmer. That was the first one in the 18th century that started experimenting with magnetism. Seeing how when he used the force of his hands, he could impact in releasing headaches or of things of those natures. And it was when people start researching more about that. Kardec himself studied magnetism before starting with Spiritism for over 2 decades, almost 3 decades. He was really intrigued by how all of this could make an impact in the health of human beings. So the passes that we call is the perispirit of the patient receives fluids from the pass giver or healer, which will then be transferred to the physical body, considering that the transfusion of fluids occurs from perispirit to perispirit. Again, like I said before, it's not my physical hand that is donating this energy load, the load of energy that will be required to help a person that is the recipient of the passes. But my perispirit, all where we have the energy with the chakras, communing and working together with the perispirit of the patient, that is going to provoke and to help in this manner. Of course, we don't feel anything, we don't see anything, but we have to understand how things work and how important it is for us to take certain behaviors, to assume certain positions and attitudes in our lives that are going to help us in become better people, ethically speaking, and with the commitment and the sufficient love and desire to help our neighbors. The magnetic energies that are continuously released from us form an atmosphere around our body. If it is stimulated by our will, it will not act significantly on the individuals that surround it. It will actually act. However, if our will stimulates and directs it, it will move with all the power that we may give to it. So, like I say, I have here the energy. If I do not know what to do with that, and I do not want to do anything with that, it's just going to be dispersed in the ether. But if I know what to do with it, and if I put my will to that, and if on top of that, what we want to achieve is a good for another person, we may be sure that it's going to provoke an impact. Even if it's not an impact that is going to be that clear in terms of our physical senses. We have to remember that physically speaking, we are temporary. And the majority of our immortal life is not in the physical sphere, not with this kind of physical body. And so we have to start thinking more about our spiritual self as well. So prayer, that is actually the subject of our symposium, also paying a homage to the 150 years of the celebration of the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's something that helps us tremendously in terms of the passes to be more efficient. Because when we ask and understand that we alone, in spite of having perhaps the possibility, cannot provoke any kind of healing, but if we ask for the assistance of the Spirit, it's going to be much more efficient. We are going to be resorting to prayers much more. This is one of the differences that we will find among other practitioners that utilize the same thing in terms of laying on of hands. Some of them only focus and work on their own energy, on their own magnetism. Spiritists are always going to be working with a bodyguard or many bodyguards that we call our spiritual friends. Then we can call it mentors, guides, guardian angels, protectors. I'm just calling them now bodyguards. Not in the sense that we need this kind of assistance, but they help us, and they are going to make it this energy that we have actually be moved in the right direction. Let's say here, for example, I have Gustavo, and I don't know that he has a headache. So I'm giving him a passes. But the spirits that are helping me, because I'm praying, I'm with the desire of helping and assist him, they know. So they will use my ability, my energy, the energy that is necessary to promote the healing in the right place. And sometimes I don't even know what it is, but they know, and they will direct this force, that we are willingly giving to help our fellow being in the right area, in the right chakra, to help so that we can receive the assistance. Even in terms of emotional assistance, like here we have the negative and the positive, prayer can be a tremendous tool. Because remember that we say that we go about life making associations with entities, energies, spirits that we do not even know are around us. And sometimes when we are in this state of mind, we are going to attract spirits that are in this state of mind. And the prayer that we can commit ourselves, and the passes as well, may help us to start moving and changing our mental outlook. And in this manner, we are going to be releasing all the negative energies, as well as sending away the unwanted spiritual companies that may be lingering with us because of our own lack of caution, not being cautious enough, right? So we have three different kind of passes. The first kind that we call is what we call magnetic passes. The magnetic passes is that example that I started explaining to you, where we have a pass giver that is actually endowed somehow, of course, due to a commitment before reincarnation that could be providing more this kind of energy to heal others, even if sometimes it's unconscious. Sometimes we don't know how it happens. The person has no spiritual affiliation with anything, but you know that sometimes you have like that neighbor. We go to that neighbor, then that neighbor can heal certain illness. They do not know what the neighbor does. Nobody understands anything. But we are talking about magnetic healing. So these people, they have this kind of energy that is actually the universal cosmic fluid that in the human being we call vital fluid, that is capable of promoting physical healing. If it's going to happen or not, then there are other things that we have to think about. Especially when we talk about this kind of healers, the magnetic healers, is when there is one very famous nowadays, I think everyone has heard about him, John of God. There are people that go there and they are healed by him. There are others that are not healed by him. Not trying to advocate in favor or saying anything against the person, but with healers, and of course these do exist, what happens is it also depends on the person. The marriage, is it actually allowed? Is it going to be good for that person to receive healing, or that person, if healed, is going to complicate one's life even more? So sometimes the healing doesn't happen because it's not allowed to benefit the person oneself. So in here we have a person that do not even need to be a spiritist. So we will find people that have or do the magnetic healing among the therapeutic touch, Reiki, Jurei, the Spiritist passes, all denominations, the laying on of hands, like, the amount of priests that we have that could heal, it's amazing as well. So this is the magnetic action. In the magnetic action, we are talking about the person having the ability of healing without necessarily need the assistance of a spirit. In Spiritism, we never work like that. Even if we have the most capable magnetic person that is capable of magnetic healing, that person is always going to resort to extra help from the spirits. But this is one of the kind of passes that we have. So the fluid of the magnetizer oneself, properly speaking, magnetism or human magnetism, the action of which is subordinated to the power and above all the quality of the fluid that is going to promote the healing. The second type that we have is what we call the spiritual passes. We use this kind of resource quite often in the Spiritist Center when finishing our meetings we collect ourselves, we pray, and we ask for the benefits of the spirits to come and to treat each one of us. Actually, we are going to have this at the end of our symposium today. It's the last part of the symposium before we can go home and think about all the beautiful things that we are learning here today. When the spirits themselves are going to be helping us. Sometimes it's really amazing. People do not feel comfortable when we tell them, well, today we are not going to have our regular passes, we are going to be having the spiritual passes. They, oh. And I think to myself, Father, forgive them because they do not know what they're doing. Well, as much as it is good and it's great for us to have a possibility of doing something good in the Spiritist Center or other spiritual communities in terms of healing, in terms of passes, we are kind of an accessory. We are not necessarily needed or directed needed. The spirits may gather energy from us and, utilize that in the people that are in the audience and in need of that. And in this case, they are directing, working with each one of us. And it's not that sometimes they say, oh, it's like a collective passes. I like the individual ones. No, sometimes we may have 1, 2, 3 spirits next to each one of us. When we talk spiritual passes, it doesn't mean, and sometimes unfortunately people use this denomination, and I say, you know what, psychologically speaking is very wrong. And they say collective passes, because then collective it means there is someone that is giving to everyone. No, this is the idea. Spirits is still working particularly with each one of us without interference. And if they need help from magnetic fluids, vital fluids that we may have, they will gather from us during the meeting and will use in the audience, in the patients, during the time of the treatments. And they can be extremely effective. So, by the fluid from the spirit acting directly and without intermediation upon an incarnate being, either to cure or to calm the suffering, to provoke spontaneous somnambulistic sleep, or to exercise over the individual any moral, physical influence, that is a spiritual magnetism of which the quality is determined by the quality of the spirit. In this case, if we are in a gathering such as this one, if our intention is a good intention, if we are praying, elevating our thoughts, there is no way we are not going to be receiving very good quality assistance from the spirits. We will be receiving this kind of assistance. And the most common one that we have in all of our Spiritist centers is what we call the mixed passes. This drawing actually portrays perfectly what we are talking about. We will have what we call the patient, then the pass giver, and the spirit that is going to be working through the pass giver and to help the person that is here. So every time we are giving, so it is giving that we receive, right? Francis of Assisi. We are actually receiving firsthand the good energies so that we can transmit them. So to every pass that we give to someone is like we are receiving one ourselves. So that's the beauty of charity, of doing good to others. While we are not thinking about what we receive in return, we are receiving so much more. Because how can this spirit giving clean water to the patient if the recipient is not clean? So they have to clean us first. Very bad, right? They have to clean us first, and we leave there, and that's why we have so much energy and we feel so good about it, because we are receiving all that. Of course, in the very same way that we say, if the patient doesn't behave, the healing may not be that efficient. If the past giver doesn't behave, it's not going to feel the same things. Actually, sometimes the past giver may present oneself in such a bad shape that what this poor spirit has to do is to neutralize completely the past giver and to give a spiritual path direct to the patient. So it has double work, to help the patient and to neutralize the past giver that somehow has not prepared enough in order to present oneself for this sacred task. So it says here, by the fluid which the spirit shed upon the magnetizer or the past giver, as we serve as conductor. This is mixed magnetism, semi-spiritual or human spiritual. The spiritual fluid is combined with the physical, giving to the latter the qualities which are wanting to it. The meeting of spirits for like circumstances sometimes is spontaneous, but more often it is brought about by the call of the magnetizer. So, of course, every time we are in the Spiritist Center, we are in a house of assistance, in a house of prayer, that we are going to be doing and committing ourselves to this kind of work, we are going to be assisted by the spirits. And sometimes even without knowing, when we are trying to pray for someone, we are doing that at distance as well. So the spirits are going to be helping us in this sense. And here is another drawing just to illustrate the combining work, the partnership, the teamwork that exists between spirits and us and people incarnate, helping in dealing and guiding the past giver in the sense to work in a certain area of the physical body that was more distressed and in need of assistance. So, the effects of the passes. That is something that is, we have to meditate about it. Many people question that, and many people do not understand why it can be more or less effective. Why sometimes we will see more the result in certain people and less in other people. So let's see it here, what we have, the negative factors that can intervene. Impediments related to trials. So remember that we said sometimes we are not allowed to receive a healing. It's not going to be good for us to be completely healed. Sometimes we may even feel a certain improvement, but not reach a complete healing, because it's better for us not to have that. Physical conditions of the past giver, if it's too elderly, using certain medicines, if it's ill, if it has some addictions, the past giver, like the conductor that we were talking about, like the vase, has to try to be as best as possible in order to fulfill its tasks. No one is imposed the task to be a past giver. If you say, I want to be one, and you want to prepare, so you have to prepare for that. And you are going to be gathering a great benefit from it. But it's necessary for the past giver to have this understanding. Lack of cooperation on the part of the patient, lack of faith or a rejection toward the fluidic action. Do you know that people that you bring to the Spiritist Center, oh, come with me, the Spiritist Center is great, and then you can receive passes, and the person goes like, oh, I don't want to go, I don't believe in any of that, and they sit there and they are going to be receiving passes. Sometimes they don't receive anything, because their mental outlook shuts completely the possibility of them receiving any benefit. And sometimes even if they receive a little benefit, as soon as they leave, they return to their usual ways, and it's like getting dirt again. Remember the shower association. So it's like that. And that's why people will say, oh, I didn't feel anything, it didn't help me at all, it's not good at all, because we are shut to that. Of course, again, it's not going to the center once, receiving a pass once, that we are going to be completely transformed to life. I don't know of anything that can promote this kind of a life change, except perhaps getting this close to death. Right? I think some of us may know examples of people that really had a scare, had the benefit of continuing alive, and then they take a complete shift in their lives. But except from that, we don't see things changing us overnight. It's not by leaps and bounds that we are going to be changing. So these may be some of the reasons that we may not feel that much the benefit. The second one, the condition of the past giver, is going to impact. But like I said, if we are working in a safe environment, in one that is actually has the aim to promote assistance and good to others, chances are that it's going to happen what I told you just a few minutes ago. The spirit is going to neutralize completely the past giver and work directly on the patient. And if the spirit needs a certain amount of vital fluid, it's going to get from somebody else. And of course, the great benefit is to achieve healing. Not even when we go to the best doctor that there is, taking the best medicine that there is, things happen overnight. We have to understand that the process of illnesses that have been established in our physical body, coming from our spirit, our perispirit, it took time for them to take that root. And of course, for us to eliminate them completely for us, it's something, the process that also is going to be taking time. So more or less how this healing happens. The spirit have the abilities with the magnetism, with the will, to remove negative molecules that were actually affecting our physical body and substituting them for positive molecules. We can reach that also through meditation. There are healing meditations where we talk to ourselves in our physical body, where we send energy, love to ourselves, and somehow we are capable of repairing those cells, or even substituting or combating the negative cells that may be provoking any kind of illnesses. The effects of passes are not only important for the physical healing, but also for spiritual healing. We understand in Spiritism that, well, we are immortal, spirits, we never die. Actually, 90% of the population believes in the immortality of the soul. It may be a striking number, but this is the true number, the numbers that we have. Anyway, if you think about the major religions and philosophies in the world, they all talk about immortality of the soul. Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Protestantism, Spiritism, and the Muslim, all of them talk about the immortality of the soul. The difference with us is that we believe in reincarnation, as many in the world also believe some of those other religions and philosophies that we just mentioned. So if we are immortal, and if we are in the spirit realm, we may have the impact of receiving or perceiving the presence of spirits next to us. They can be good, they can be bad, They can be neutral, but even when they do not have a specific desire to harm us, just by not being enlightened, aware enough, their presence can jeopardize us. Sorry. So, here is the case of someone that loved this man very much and cannot separate from him. But of course, not being well enough, balanced enough, the presence may cause spiritual disturbances and physical disturbances. And with the passes, we are capable of removing the negative energy that we may receive from those spirits to the point of reestablishing physical and spiritual balance in ourselves. Sorry. In mediumship meetings, passes are also important because it will help sometimes the spirit that is manifesting. Remember that when I give a pass to a human being, who is receiving the pass? The physical body or the spiritual body? The spiritual body, yes. You were paying attention, right? So, if the person is alive or dead, we are talking about the spiritual body. So here I can give passes directly to the spiritual body of the communicant spirit. But also, I can benefit the medium because sometimes the communicant spirit, so earthbound, so in a state of suffering, may release some of this burden, this energy to the medium, and then I can assist the medium by removing any of the residues that may stay with the medium after a communication. Okay? They are essential also in the task of disobsession. For those who are not familiar with this obsession or spiritual attachment, is again when we are somehow spirits unite themselves with us, but they are in a state that is going to be harming us. Like for instance here, we see a spirit that is leading this man to drink because he feels the need to drink. So we can help to break this association again. Again, it's not something that you go there, receive a passes and buy any kind of miracle is going to be transformed overnight. And even if this is the case, if I remove, I'm capable, or meaning the spirits are capable of removing this spirit from this man. If he keeps on drinking, what is going to happen? He's going to invite somebody else. This one is going to move away, but a new one will come because it will continue in that pattern that will be attracting like attracts like. It will be attracting that. So passes in this case helps a lot. That's why when we are talking about addictions, fighting addictions, in terms of spiritism, we always say that we have to attack addictions in 3 areas. The physical one, because there is the physical dependence. The psychological one, that sometimes is the one that led in the first place to the physical addiction. And every time there is an addiction, there is a spirit. If we are lucky, it's just one. Most of the time we are not that lucky, but there are spirits that are taking advantage of this kind of addiction. And we have to address the spiritual side as well. That's why perhaps in the future, when people start paying more attention to that, the percentage of people that can actually recover from addiction is going to be much higher, because we are not addressing that. Okay? It's not the topic of our conversation today, but just for us to talk a little bit about, I have to look at the watch to see how much time we have. And the magnetized water, that of course this is just a picture, the spirit doesn't need to put their hands there. It's just to illustrate to us more or less how it happens. Again, it can be just with the mediums or the spirits or both helping in the transformation of the water. So let's see in terms of practice what happens. We have the benefactor, the past giver, the patient. So the first movement that we do is that of cleansing, removing, doing that the shower. Remember, removing all the negative energy that exists from the in the spiritual arena of the person. Like we call it dispersive pass. The second moment after after we remove it, the negative energy, is when we are going to be giving good energy. So not only when you receive passes, you are going to be receive a cleansing in terms of spiritual energy, but then you are going to leave with extra energy, good energy, that is going to be replacing the negative energy. But like we said before, the mind is very important, because if the patient somehow repels, is not in a state of mind to allow the past giver to work and the spirits to reach the patient, is not going to happen. The best way because we receive the passes in the spirit, our spiritual body, the best way for us to position ourselves when we are going to be receiving a passes, or even in the what we are going to be doing at the end of the symposium, the more we place ourselves in a state of prayer and meditation, the more we spirit or spiritual body detach from our physical body. We emancipate. The more emancipated we are because of our thoughts, not because of our sleepiness, because then we are going to move away. We're not going to be in the area where the spirits are going to be working. We will flee, to wherever you will flee. So we are going to be emancipated, and the action of the energy is more effective, because it reaches straight into our spiritual body. So it's very important for us to have this kind of mindset when having this kind of experience. Is there any volunteer to receive a theoretical pass now? Okay, please come here. So I'm going to more or less demonstrate, because when people say, how can I be a pass giver? Just put the on the side of the chair on the side so everyone can see it. We say it's the movements themselves are very, very easy. We just have to understand what is behind, the theory that is behind. We have to have the goodwill. We have to prepare ourselves, like we've been saying here. But the movements themselves are very easy, and everyone can repeat the movements. So most of the time, of course, we are talking about the general spirited passes that we receive in the Spiritist Center. The passes follow this pattern that I'm going to be showing you. It can be a little different, but the main idea, again, is to work in the chakras. So I'm not going to use the microphone, so let's see. I position myself in a way that I'm going to be connecting with the good spirits, thinking about God, Jesus, if you have a favorite saint, whatever you feel more comfortable with. And always thinking, and above all, having compassion for the person that is before me. I always think what led this person to the Spiritist Center today? What kind of suffering is this person going through? How much need is this person right now? What can I give to the person? And when I start thinking like that, she's no longer a person, she's my sister. She's someone that I care about. She's not just someone that came. I start connecting, developing a sense of empathy with the sister, the brother and sister that is before me. This is the most important ingredient in any kind of passes spiritual healing we are going to be giving. Okay, so I start thinking in a way like, I'm caressing her. I wish I could help you. I give you all my best to release you from this pain. Because, we are all in pain, right? We are all in need. We are all somehow, some of us in more need than others, others not so much, but we are all in need of something, and we are all searching for something. So this is the person that I have before me that are taking her precious time, having faith to come to a place that is supposed to help her. And I have the obligation to give my best to help her. So this is my state of mind before each person and how I'm communicating with the Spirit. Help this sister. Give her what she needs. Help her to alleviate the pain. So we start with the first movement that we said is removing. Like, I'm actually grabbing and removing. So you see how when I grab, I release everything here. It's like I have two buckets, two garbage bins next to me. I'm not going to send to him because I'm removing, let's say that she has negative energy. I'm not going to send it to him, right? I'm going to put it in a neutral area. So, and working in the area of the main chakras. Normally, when we return, we close our heads not to go against the current, because there are energy that is here as well. Okay, so she's clean. First movement, she's completely clean. Okay. The second, third one is when I start placing my hands above the main chakras. And this is where things get interesting. Because now we know where the chakras are. Okay? But when we are working on the chakras, it can be with just one hand, it can be with two hands, I can be working even in the back if necessary, but it's not the best way of doing that. Or on the side. I can work on the side as well. In the first movement, because we can repeat that, not like a dum, 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 but it's more like soft, something soft, and you are visualizing the chakras. You start thinking, the first movement that I do, I start thinking about the physical healing, the physical aspects of each chakra. So this chakra is associated with the mind, the brain. And so this one is associated with the head, the frontal cortex. I start thinking about healing, physically speaking, the vocal cords, the heart, the lungs, the area of the GI tract, the stomach, all this area, the splenic, and in the case of the reproduction area as well. The second time I'm going to be doing that, then I'm going to work on a different level. The first level was the physical level. The second one is the spiritual level. So it's when I think if there are any entities, any negativity that is connected to each one of those chakras, that they may be released. If she has disturbing thoughts, that she may rid herself from these emotional disturbance thoughts, that she can always be working with her mind for goodness, use her voice to produce and to spread goodness, to have good feelings that comes from the heart, and to have in the area of where we are more associated, those are areas that are very much associated with vampires, with the spirits that wants to remove energy from us. So I think about releasing, especially in those areas, the spirits that may be also depleting her of spiritual energy. You know, when we go to some places and you come back like, it's because you were around, and it doesn't need to be bad spirits to do that. Sometimes it's actually living ones doing that. And you come home completely exhausted without not knowing. And then we just, to finalize, we just do a movement like this, thinking about maybe if I put some other energy here, let's see if I'm baking a cake and putting the icing. Oh, there's too much icing here. Let's put the ice. It's spread it evenly. So the movement is very easy. Again, cleansing. And before I start giving, I cleanse a lot, my hands, just to be sure that I'm not going to return negative energy. Working in the main chakras, thinking about the physical aspects and the spiritual aspects of each chakra, and then just finalizing like this. This is it. It's actually, thank you very much. It's actually very easy in terms of movement speaking. But again, the drive, our mind, and how we see the person. Even when we are praying to someone, it doesn't need just to be for the passes. It's this desire of helping and asking for the good spirits, and that is actually going to make an impact even in the amount of energy that we are going to be capable of releasing. And this is when you are going to be feeling the tingling in your hands, because as soon as you place your hand like that, you start feeling the tingling, and the more love you have, you start feeling like something comes from here too, like a beam of light. I mean, we are not saying that we are, without the help of the Spirit, we're nothing, but we can do something about it. We can give something. And this is the most important thing about that. So this is what we call normally the longitudinal, because we go like in this area, always working on the chakras that help us to help in so many different areas. So what is necessary for us to do as a past giver? Doctrinal knowledge and balanced behavior. Just to confirm, at what time do we have to stop at? Do you know it? Huh? 3:15. 3:15, oh my God. I underestimated my time, but no, we are going to be able to cover all that, but I really would like to leave at least 5 minutes for us to have some Q&A. So, doctrinal knowledge, good mental and physical health, emotional balance, good sense is going to be telling us what we need. Control, desire of inner reform, exercise of self-control. If you are going to be waiting to be perfect to do that, forget it. It's going to take another, I don't know, 4,000 years perhaps. So you better start doing that now with the little that, you can give just a little cup of water. That's brilliant. Okay, give whatever you can give. Don't wait, don't think that we are going to be ready or that we are so special in doing that. And faith and deep trust in divine assistance. Nourishment is important. I mean, when we are talking about fluids, if my body is too busy doing the digestion, it's not going to be capable of releasing the magnetism. Not eating as well is going to make me uncomfortable and rumbling stomachs or in front of the patient, thinking, oh my God, another hour before I have something to eat is not good as well. We have to look for things that are going to help us to concentrate, to enhance positive images. Prayer, of course, is always going to be a most important tool that we can have for all that. The way we are going to behave in terms how we dress, the adornments. If we have all those bangles here, and imagine every time that I have to do that, poor person that is in front of me is not going to be able to concentrate. Perfume. I'm allergic to a lot of smell. Okay, so in the Spiritist Center, we advise people to try to not use smell. Sometimes even when we go wash the hands, that the smells can be so strong, and it can affect the person. The person can be very sensitive to that. But of course, at least we are talking about good smell. Bad smell is going to be really a problem, okay? So it's another thing we have to be thinking about. And we are going to be wearing comfortable clothes and comfortable shoes. Once I went to a Spiritist Center, there was a past giver that was barefoot. I said, what are you doing? She said, no, because I came with uncomfortable shoes. And said, well, first of all, people are going to look strange because they may feel, oh, maybe she's more special because she's barefoot, receiving the telluric forces or blah, 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 which is true, but, we don't need to be barefoot for that. I, as a patient, would not like to be looking at the toes of the person that is giving me, passes. And I said, you know what? Bring comfortable shoes. If you have to work with, high heels the day of the passes, bring comfortable clothes sometimes that you have to do like that, and then you stick like this, you cannot do that. And so, we have to be mindful about what we are doing. We, of course, will try to be in good health. Good health meaning good health. It doesn't need to be that we don't have a chronic illnesses all there. But when we are taking antibiotics, certain kind of medicine, prescription medicine, it may not be that good for us. We should refrain perhaps to give passes at that day. Tiredness, quarrels at home, indisposition, sadness, all of that is very sad, but please show up for work. Okay, we face that each and every day of our lives, especially when we are committing to do a good work. If there are negative forces that want to prevent us to do that, if you pay attention, this is only going to happen in the day that you have to do your share of charity. All the other days of the week you are like, fresh as a daisy. But that day is the day that everything happens. And it's over and over again. I've been doing that for so long, and it's still, our most serious work happens on a Monday. And so when I talk to my husband over the phone, he says, how are you doing today? I said, well, I'm with the Monday syndrome. That's what I call, because it's when all of that sometimes come into place at the same time. Content contagious illnesses, imbalances, emotional imbalances, those are things that should prevent us to work in the field of giving passes. We don't have to be a medium, okay, or an ostensive medium, because according to Kardec, to the spirits, we are all mediums. We don't have to remove anything like all people say, oh no, this is metal, it's going to prevent energy. It's not going to prevent energy. Just like I said, if it's making noise, if it's uncomfortable, or a loose ring, you're going to be doing like that and losing the ring, then you remove, but not for any other reason. We darken the room normally, not because the spirits require that, but because us human beings are very easily distracted. And so, when we darken the room, people are more conducive to collect themselves, to pray, sometimes even sleep, and they shouldn't. But and not to be paying attention too much to what is happening, what kind of clothes she's wearing or he's wearing today. So, but there are certain aspects that is much better for the spirits when we are talking about magnetic healing, because this kind of light is very sensitive for magnetic energy that we also call ectoplasm. But other than that, the only reason is because of this. There are people, sometimes, we have to use common sense. We have meetings at midday, at noon during the day, and of course even then sometimes we have our lights on. It comes the time for the passes, people go there and turn off the lights. I said, what for? It's midday outside, so we have to, not to be that much stuck to things without knowing what we are doing, okay? The light here is not because it needs to be dark, but it's because of the concentration. It's light already, it doesn't need, if you want to do it, but it's not because it is required. There is no problem resulting from us giving pass from the back, but it's not the best option. Outside of the Spiritist Center, we are just going to be giving passes to those that are unable to come to the Spiritist Center. If they are ill, if they cannot move, if there is extenuating circumstances, we can do that, never alone. We need at least another person, preferably 2 more, in order for us to do that. If we do not have this condition, let us pray, let us ask the spirits for the spiritual passes, and the person is going to be receiving in the same way. In case of obsession as well, it's something that is very difficult. I have a friend that had his nose broken because he went to help a friend that is having an attack, let's say, of an obsessor, and the obsessor broke his nose. He was alone there. He went there with his Bible, his Gospel according to Spiritism, read a page, and boom. Received a knocking. We don't need more than the other slides. Anyway, so received a knocking from the spirit. And we said, so that's why it's very important for us to understand what kind of forces we are talking about. And the preparation as well is always a daily occurrence. The more we understand the beauty of that, the invitation that we have received to serve, the better we are going to be able to, little by little, work on our inner improvement. Remembering that I don't need to be better than anyone, just better than I was yesterday. And this is good enough. Right? So we still have 5 minutes for a question. I'm sorry, we didn't have that much time. Precious time. Anyone? Well, there will be a break. If you remember anything during the break, feel free to come to me as well. But if you haven't, we still have those minutes. Yeah? Just speak loud, please, because I'm hearing impaired.
Is it really necessary to the cleansing before to the fast?
Well, it's like, I love the French, but we talk of that the French don't take a shower, they just use perfume. It would be the same thing. You know, you go and you disguise. It's always better. Actually, if I had to choose between two things, I would do the cleansing and not do the second part. It would be more important to cleanse than to give new energy. If I had to choose, of course, the best one is to put everything. I have 3 minutes, right? Oh, I have more minutes. Yeah, so we have 10 minutes for questions. But let's indulge with this extra time. It's okay. I mean, the thing I have to do complete, but
So it is more of a healing than the fast is more of a healer?
because you know what is making you sick is the negative energy that you are accumulating, even from yourself. We are not saying that the negative energy necessarily comes from outside. Okay, it may come from my thoughts, from my negativity, and then I start accumulating those thoughts, and like in a vicious circle, I cannot find a way to rid myself from that. But if someone somehow comes and starts removing this, you know, bad grass that we may have, and removing this negative energy due to my own behavior, thoughts, negativity, I'm going to feel better and be more open to positive energies, whether they are coming from passes or not. But I will be, and sometimes, you know, the person is like, you know, you have parasites all over you, you cannot move. But if I go there and remove all the parasites, you can break free. Whether you're going to bring more parasites or not to you, it depends on you, right? The parasites are around the tree. So that's why the cleansing is so important.
And after that, you can put on the hands over the head the person, or you will have to do the...
It would be useless. We shouldn't do that, because in fact we should do the opposite. We should, and there is one very interesting fact. Most of the time people die alone. Because when there are loving ones, family member among them, the desire that we have from them to come works as a magnetic passes. So I'm giving vitality, energy to the person that is on the verge of being completely released from the physical body, and this hinder the possibility of them going. And it's normally when they have that disguised battering. Oh, the person said and talking to me, I think I can go to the cafeteria now and eat something I didn't eat the whole day. You come back, that the person is dead. Because the spirits help this apparent improvement so that the family members can release their the amount of energy that they are giving and actually hindering the deliverance of the person. And then when we don't think about it that much, we are more at peace, or we move away a little bit from the person, they're gone. So it's not a good thing to do that, and we shouldn't do that. If so, we would do the cleansing, but in this case, to help release all the vital energy that may still be with the corpse for a while. It was a very interesting question. Things that we have also to think about, to meditate, to research even more. Yes?
Do people who become past givers, do they
Sorry, people will...
People who become past givers, do they usually give up drinking altogether if they have the occasional?
Not really. Okay, I mean, the ideal thing, and this is one that is very good about Spiritism. When people say, does Spiritism forbid you of anything? The answer is no. You are allowed to do anything you want. But as Paul the Apostle said, everything is allowed to me, but not everything is convenient to me. So Spiritism will show you what is not convenient to you, and the decision of continue doing this or that will be yours, exercising your free will. I do believe that many of the past givers, many of the mediums and workers of the Spiritist Center have, imperfections in several arenas. They still drink, some of them even smoke, or they eat too much, they sleep too much, and worst of all, they do bad things. They gossip, they have hatred, which is even worse than taking a beer, according to my point of view, okay? So what we say is that at least in the day that you are going to be giving passes, try not to use any alcoholic, not to smoke, not having that, heavy meal, is actually going to make your fluids much more capable of helping others. Use all your abilities wisely. But don't worry, it's not a requirement. Yes.
Are there other kinds of passes other than individual passes, like group type passes?
Normally we like to work more with the individual passes, because then you can address a special area. But in cases of obsession, sometimes there are obsessors that may be in the house of some people. And then in this case, we are actually doing like a group passes, because we are trying to read that particular obsessor or spirit that is attached to the family, wanting to harm the family. But I would say that is more common actually just to do the individual. There are places, because there are so many people to have passes, that they have they give passes row by row. So you have one pass giver in this row, another in that row. It still is not collective, it's not group. It gets more in the realm of the spiritual passes. I, as a pass giver, will be there donating my magnetism, physical energy, vital fluid to the spirits that are working in particular with each one of the person of that row, and that may need the component of my physicality. It still is not group passes.
Does music or meditation music play a major factor in giving the passes? And technically, how much time frame is a good pass?
It does, because in terms of the music, because again, we are so easily distracted, and if we have a good music, and a music that is touch us, is going to touch us in the innermost part of our souls. It's going to help us, like in a state of meditation, in a state of prayer, to be more connected with the spirituality. Like for instance, when I hear piano, violin, I move away. I think it's so beautiful. And so this kind of, and the calmness of the music, we are talking, of course, mostly about type of classic music that is going to promote this calmness, this state of meditation. So it can help a lot. It's not absolutely necessary. If you don't have the possibility of doing that, you don't do that. But if you have this resource, it's actually going to help. And there was a second part in your question.
Time frame?
Time frame is, in those kind of passes that we are giving, it's under a minute. It's not something that is too long. They say sometimes it's the time that you think about praying the Lord's Prayer. But then you are not going to be thinking, Heavenly Father, word in heaven, hallowed be thy name, because then you don't think about the person. But with time, with experience, you are going to be gathering the timing. I think for someone that is starting as a pass giver, this is going to be the most difficult thing. Like, the first movement we can do twice, the second movement you do twice, the third one you do once, twice as well, and so think about it and concentrate more on the task ahead. But it's always less than, I would say, something between 30 seconds to 45 seconds. I never measured myself, but something like that. We still have 2 minutes. Yes, 1 and 2. Okay.
Is there a significant difference between the kind of passes you've been describing and the kind of work that's done with spiritual healing that some centers do?
I don't know if I got the question.
A lot of Spiritist centers do this kind of passing.
Yes.
What about those Spiritist centers that also do spiritual healing, usually on a separate day? Is there a significant difference in terms of...
Yeah, actually, on those days, I mean, the mechanism may be the same. Okay, like we have that on Mondays, like I told you. The mechanisms, especially for the spiritual healing, may be the same, but for the physical healing, they may be different. I had some slides here that I was going to show. We didn't have time, unfortunately, but it's more directed to the magnetic healing, which actually requires more of our preparation. Then they will have different movements. We will have an interview with the person, knowing what kind of physical problem the person is presenting, and then we will know more or less which area of the body we will have to work more. So the imposition of hands are going to be different. Like, for instance, if the person has a very bad infection, we have what we call the attack. So with this kind of movement, I'm going to be kind of killing the bacteria, the infection. But then when I kill that, I also left the area very fragile, so I always going to impose, a renewed energy in that area. Sometimes, depending on the circumstances, we need more cleansing in certain areas, because we can see that the chakras may be clogged more in that particular area, which is provoking the illnesses. When we are talking about spiritual healing, like I said, mostly when we have a spiritual attachment, an obsessor, they stay here because they want to control our mind, and they feed here. So we have to work a lot on these two areas. So more specific treatments. But most of the time, with the regular passes that we have, and always with the assistance of the spirits, because this is what we say, we never dispense. Because if we are missing some point, they will be helping, and we will be receiving, and treatment will continue even during the night. Last question now.
The passes are meant to give just only at the center?
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
The passes are only meant to center, or can I, if you start giving fast, can you give for loved ones outside of?
Yeah, you see, this is where it can get a little complicated. Okay, we cannot say absolutely not, but we cannot say yes all the time. So you have to use common sense. What I normally say is, if you have the habit at your home to do what we call God at home, gospel at home, once a week, and during that once a week when you did your prayer, you gather the family, and if you want to exchange passes between one and the other, that would be the most appropriate time for that. If there is an illnesses and you know more or less how to help or how to deal with those magnetic passes, you can also do that. There, for instance, when people are with fever, you can blow on the top of the head and on the sole of the feet, like this. It's what we call the cold breath. And it helps to release and to help in cases of fever. But then again, we really have to know what we are doing. So best thing is always, to have faith and to rely on the help of the spirits. Do a prayer. Put a glass of the water specifically for that person and ask that somehow that person may receive to that water, that you can be giving a glass a day, the medicine, the treatment necessary. Because I after talking so much about passes, writing a book about that, we do that just because we need physicality. If we could establish from ourselves a straight communion with God, we don't need anything else. But somehow we block this connection and we need something else to help us. There will be a time that this is no longer going to be necessary. We will be receiving directly. We will be open to that. In the meantime, thank God we know what to do. But so we have to focus on that. So let's just pray and ask for assistance. Thank you so much for your attention, for the participation, and we'll see you next time.